Nike, H&M, and Burberry are among the big brands facing a boycott in China. Some companies' online shops are now blocked, and their stores have vanished from some online maps. It's all because of a stance they've taken against the treatment of Uyghurs in the country, specifically allegations that they're forced to pick the cotton that supplies the global market. This latest retaliation comes after countries, including Canada, condemned the Communist Party for its actions in Xinjiang. So who's behind this coordinated effort? We're welcome now Charles Burton, a former Canadian diplomat to China and the senior fellow with the Centre for Advancing Canada's Interests Abroad at the Macdonald Laurier Institute. He's in St. Catharines tonight. Hi, Charles. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, Janella.
So what do you make of these boycotts? The Chinese officials say that it's coming from consumers, but what do you make of it?
Well, I don't think it's really coming from consumers because of the enormous and spontaneous blocking of H&M and these other retailers. As you said in the introduction, they don't appear on online maps anymore. Their apps are no longer available from Chinese cell phone providers. Their stores have been removed from Chinese online retailers like Taobao and Alibaba, and it all happened more or less in a flash. And so, this seems to be coordinated retaliation by the Chinese government because the EU, the UK, the US, and Canada, in addition to sanctioning Chinese officials who are complicit in the Uyghur genocide, also sanctioned the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, which is a military institute that has quite a lot of the farming land in China and is specifically involved in cotton production, much of which is still done by hand by Uyghurs.
So what's interesting, though, is that these companies didn't make any new statements recently. It was last March that H&M said it would stop buying cotton growing in Xinjiang. So, we're seeing this as retaliation against these retailers for moves that their governments made.
Yes, I think that's right. I think that they hope that by putting pressure on the retailers, that will feed back pressure to the governments and have them go backwards on their insistence that the products of forced labor should not be sold in Western department stores.
So what do we know about the conditions where this cotton is grown?
Well, there hasn't been a high degree of mechanization of cotton production in Xinjiang. About 60% of China's cotton production is produced in that region, and it's largely being produced by forced labor. Some of these of what they call Bingtuan, the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, use people who have been released from prison to labor in the fields, and in particular, we're seeing more and more of the Uyghurs who have been cycled out of the education facility concentration camps, instead of being released into society, are still being essentially constrained by working in picking cotton in these semi-military institutions. Conditions are very rough for them. It's not a nice place to live.
But what's interesting is the reality is a lot of these major companies can't exactly call themselves morally superior, even if they have pulled out from this particular place. Do you think that part of the reasoning behind it is just to look good on that socially conscious sort of bandwagon?
Well, this is an issue. Of course, consumers, including myself, would prefer to buy products that are produced ethically, environmentally sound with proper labor conditions for the people, largely in the third world, who are producing them. On the other hand, companies like H&M do a terrific amount of retail in China, and if their main focus is maximizing profits for their shareholders, then they will suffer considerably by the loss of this enormous market. So, we have seen some sort of messing around where I've noticed in English, a company says that they are not sourcing cotton from Xinjiang, and in the Chinese version of their website, they say that they are continuing to buy good Xinjiang cotton. So you get this kind of awful hypocrisy that I think eventually we'll all be calling out.
Right, they're playing both sides. And that's what I was going to ask. How do you see this playing out? Do you see the companies bending to China, or do you see other companies putting pressure, or other companies pressure to react? And at what point does the international community get involved?
Well, I think that there's an increasing consensus that the cotton produced in Xinjiang is not being produced ethically. It's the product of forced labor. We have no means to distinguish product that is or isn't, and therefore it's incumbent on those companies to show to governments that the cotton is not the product of forced labor. So, we won't be allowing that stuff into Canada and the other countries that have engaged in these sanctions, so long as we don't have confidence that it's ethically produced cotton. So it's in the interest of those companies to source their cotton from elsewhere so they can continue to access our markets, even if they lose the Chinese market.
All right. Charles Burton in St. Catharines, Ontario. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Good to speak with you.